Hi everyone. Today I wanted to show you people who play the Slav defense, a good setup against the Catalan. So d4, d5, c4, c6, the Slav. So after knight f3 and e6, white goes g3, and this is the start of the Catalan. A pretty challenging opening. The problem is that white will have a lot of pressure on this long diagonal combined with his other pieces. So you see there's really a lot of pressure on the light squares, and white wants to target this diagonal, and these make use of these two potential weaknesses also. Um, So the setup I'm proposing is to go bishop e7. So basically we are for the moment preventing bishop g5. That's not really the main point, but it's something useful for the moment. So bishop g2, knight f6, castle, castle, and you see we are focusing our attention to our kingside development first. We are leaving these pieces here on the back rank, especially this knight. We are leaving it on its natural square so it can help defend c6. And our idea, our plan is to go b6, a5. Well, our idea is actually to go bishop a6. Sorry. Only if we go b6, bishop a6 first, there might be some annoying queen a4 jumps. That's why after, let's say, knight c3, we first play a5. So let's check out some moves by white. Let's say he plays queen c2. Then we can actually take this pawn here, d takes c4. And after, let's say, bishop f4, we can play knight d5, hitting these two pieces. White probably won't give up its bishop, so let's say bishop d2. Then we have knight b4, and after the queen moves, b5. And this position is good for white. Of course, you always need to pay attention to this c6 square and any possible knight e5 jumps. Here it's not possible at the moment because this d4 pawn is hanging. So let's say e3. Then this bishop can come out to a6 finally. So if b3 here, you can take, I think, but also knight d3 might be interesting. And if white plays a4, then you can just develop this knight and invite white to take. Knight e5 is still not good, I think, since I suppose we can just take the knight. I also note that at the moment this knight is protecting the pawn. So this is a really great position for black. So let's go back a couple of moves. Let's say white plays bishop g5 here. Now you can just continue on with knight to d7. Knight e5 isn't a good move here since we can just take. And after knight to d7, this pawn is more or less weak. We're threatening to trade the bishop, and this bishop isn't putting really any pressure at all on these pawns. And it's also hard for white to bring in more attackers, since obviously this isn't happening since we can just take it. So let's go back and see what happens here if white plays e4. So after white plays e4, we have b5, protecting this pawn here. And we also aren't worried about e5, since that will give a very nice square here for our knight on d5. So those were some typical lines that could happen after queen c2. So let's go back and see what else white can try. White can try b2, b3 also. Here we continue with our typical plan of going b6, putting our bishop on a6. So let's say knight e5, bishop a6, and after f4 we can play knight to d7 and later decide what to do. We can think about taking the knight. Maybe we can also play f6, since we have liberated this square. So the knight on e5 isn't too stable. Instead of knight e5, white might try bishop to b2. And after bishop b2, again we play bishop a6, put some pressure here on this diagonal and on these pawns. So basically we're taking advantage of two things. First of all, with this setup, even though white gets quite a lot of pressure oftentimes, that's not really much question of a kingside attack. That's one thing, not at the moment at least. On the other hand, by putting the bishop here on this diagonal, white is leaving this diagonal open, and that's what we are making use of by playing this a5 b6 or b6 a5 and putting the bishop on a6. So let's imagine this bishop here was on e2. Well, then this pawn would have been defended one more time, and the pressure here wouldn't be so great. So white might try knight f2 d2 here, pretending probably e4. And in this case, I suggest here to play b5, inviting c5. I also should mention, if white takes here c takes d5, we almost always want to recapture c takes d5. But here probably he will and should go c5, after which b4. Knight b1 doesn't look too good to me, it looks very passive. Yeah, it's not so good for white. So knight a4 is more probable, trying to make use of this b6 here. That's why we go knight d7 immediately. And after, let's say not e4, let's say rook e1, preparing e4, we go bishop to b5, threatening maybe also to take out this knight at a good moment. And let's say after e4 here, after all these trades, also it might be an idea to put pressure on this backward d4 pawn. I guess white will probably try to push it forward, maybe even sacrifice it. So here queen c7, and like I said, maybe put some pressure here, okay, on this d5 pawn. So this should be a totally fine position for you. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's even possible to take out this knight here. It's not necessary, because well, for the moment it's not going anywhere. Oh. But let's say white moves the bishop or anything, trying to free the knight. Maybe you can think about taking it. So that seems totally fine. Finally, let's check out what happens after rook e1. Then we have knight to d7, and after, let's say, e4, d takes e4, and if e5, there's always knight d5, putting this knight on a really nice square. And if instead bishop f4, you can attack the bishop from the side like this. And well, this should be a fine position for you as well. Maybe white will try something like a4. But then again, you can harass this bishop here. And here, I haven't analyzed this before, but it looks like the engine says you can even play e5 here. So trying to break up these pawns in the center. And again, you see totally no pressure on these pawns. This is why I like this line. You are, so let's take it from the beginning. You are basically completing your kingside development as fast as possible, playing a5 here, also maybe preventing some b4 IDs, I guess, and here I showed you a couple of lines. So looks like the engine suggests knight d2, so let's check that out as the last thing we do. So here I suggest for you to play knight to d7. You could actually play b5 here also, but I think that line is a little trickier to play. So knight d7, probably e4 will happen. Then we take e4 with the knight. And after takes, knight takes e4. We could play e5 here, but my suggestion is to first play f5, chase this knight away, and only now play e5. White will probably play d5, then you can play e4, and this is quite a complicated position which you can analyze for yourself. But note that it should be pretty okay for black. So thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, please like, subscribe or leave a comment, and I will see you perhaps in one of the next videos.